The following video was produced by Jehovah's Witnesses and tells the story of Nita and Jade. Nita is a 20-something devout Jehovah's Witness who does cart witnessing at the local college. One day she meets Jade, a scrappy Avril Lavigne lookalike who eventually agrees to study Jehovah's Witness ideology with Nita. This particular series has about a dozen videos and is supposed to portray the disciple-making process, specifically how Jehovah's Witnesses preach to people from first contact, studying the Bible with them, all the way up until the point that that person gets baptized as a Jehovah's Witness. At some point, I will walk through the whole Nita and Jade series, but just for today, I want to focus on the last video, where Jade is being pressured to choose between having a relationship with her mother and becoming a Jehovah's Witness. Let's watch.
But Mum, listen.
No, Jade. You listen. Isn't this just another of your phases? It's time to move on, love. The holidays are our time. It's all I get from you. Promise me you'll be here. Promise.
I really don't want to disappoint her, but I can't disappoint Jehovah.
Of course. You love them both. Don't you think he can help you? Talk to him.
Okay, so again, I realize I'm doing this completely backwards and starting with the last video. But we see Jade, the Bible student, on the phone with her mother. She's crying, inconsolable, because her mother knows she's been studying with Jehovah's Witnesses, and you can tell the fear in the mother's voice. She's afraid she's losing her daughter. She suspects her daughter is being roped into a cult. She's begging Jade, saying, the holidays are all we have together. We're family. This is our time. And of course, Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate holidays. Like, basically saying, this is our family tradition. Don't tell me you're so far gone that you are actually going to shut us out and choose them. This is what people need to see. I know people will say, that little chit-chat you're having with your Jehovah's Witness coworker, oh, they're harmless. I let them come to my door once in a while. Sometimes they show up on a Saturday and we chit-chat. Oh yeah, my aunt's a witness, No, this is the end game. They don't give an F about you and your family. They don't care about Jade's mom. They know they're driving a wedge between family members, but they believe it's entirely justified. And this propaganda video is being shown to Bible students, the people who study with the Jehovah's Witnesses, to condition them, to desensitize them, to choose the cult over their biological family when push comes to shove. It's absolutely vile. Emotional manipulation. And then you got Nita, who has been studying the Bible with Jade this whole time. Yeah, bummer. I know what you're experiencing. I understand the conflict. Maybe you should talk to God about this. He understands what you're going through. The answer is you don't give up your mother. That is the correct answer. Jade's mother is more important than you, and she always will be. Nita's reaction is just infuriating because it's completely unethical. You are a predatory group that is trying to isolate people from their only frame of reference and consolidate power. But unfortunately, Nita too is just an indoctrinated cog in the wheel. So let's see what happens next with Jade.
I spent a long time pouring out my heart to him. And I remembered something from one of the Psalms. I will walk in your truth, unify my heart to fear your name.
Yo, so tell me. I remember someone once claiming to be all about the promises. Made any good ones lately?
Absolutely.
So midway, Jade decides to have a real heart-to-heart with God, really pray to Jehovah to help her make the right decision. But anyone who grew up in the organization, anybody who spent any amount of time as a witness, knows that when someone said, pray to Jehovah about it, that meant pray the feelings away. Pray to Jehovah meant just shove down and suppress any doubts you may have. Jehovah, aka the organization, doesn't care how you feel and what you actually need, what's best for you. All right, pray to Jehovah is code for you know what you need to do, and there will be consequences if you don't. The organization has sold her an illusion. Jade isn't entering a relationship with God. She's being coerced to commit to an organization that is going to replace her own conscience. Because if this was the right thing for her, she wouldn't be crying hysterically. She would be settled in her decision. Because really, if they were acting ethically as an organization, sure, they would be supportive and appreciate her joining the church. Of course they would like that, but they would ultimately know to stay in their lane and not insert themselves into family relationships. They know that much. They're smart enough not to do that. And I find this whole montage of Jade going from A to Z, I find it very telling. It's showing Jade's transformation from, worldly, disheveled college student to prim and proper baptized Jehovah's Witness. I'm not so biased based on my personal experience of what I went through. I'm not so biased as to say that, look at Jade. Someone like her could never be interested in, anything dealing with the Bible or wanting to go to church. She would never go from this really liberal lifestyle to wanting to be a Christian. I am an elder millennial. A lot of my cohorts, a lot of my peers were turned off by religion, by their boomer parents, by that very overly conservative, Bible-beating type of lifestyle. Whether they were Jehovah's Witnesses or not, there were just a lot of millennials and Gen Xers who were like, it's not for me. I saw enough of that. However, there are plenty of people in my generation and younger who do identify as believers or Christian, but I guarantee you that the churches they are a part of are not in the same class as Jehovah's Witnesses. They are not in a cult. And let me be clear, let me be absolutely clear about this. I'm not saying there's not abuses in other churches, but on balance, someone like Jade could have found herself in another church that wasn't going to make her choose between her mother and the church. All right, you follow? This is a totally different league. All right, this series was produced in 2020, and it was a very calculated move on the part of the writers to feature two beautiful young 20-somethings in a college setting to get their agenda across. These young women are visually appealing, and they know the organization has been bleeding numbers and struggling to bring younger converts in since the explosion of social media and the unprecedented access to information. No Gen Zer who has been weaned on TikTok and has the attention span of a gnat is going to undergo this conversion process from A to Z and go through all this struggle, put herself through the ringer, coming from the outside world. The only Gen Z, Alpha, A, B, C, D, E, F, G who is sitting in kingdom halls right now were born to Jehovah's Witness parents. They are born-ins. A lot of young adults in the college setting are also in a very emotionally, intellectually, and financially vulnerable position. And not all. I know that doesn't apply to everybody. I'm fully aware that not everybody fits this description. But Jade is in college for a reason. She's there to focus on her studies. Yes, she has the right as an adult over 17 or 18, presumably, to look into the witnesses and hear different viewpoints, but the witnesses wouldn't be the first group in history to use college campuses to bait unsuspecting students. It's clear through the series and this subsequent montage that Jade is young, she obviously doesn't have everything figured out, and that's okay, but she's also finding herself in this existential crisis where her brains are being scrambled by a cult, and the likelihood of most young people today putting themselves through this struggle and ultimately buying in is ridiculously improbable. So the organization, back in 2009, published an article in their Awake magazine that discussed this whole scenario of somebody who studies with the Jehovah's Witnesses, and specifically the backlash that they might face from their non-Jehovah's Witness family. Basically, the article is saying, look, we know we're not popular, and your family is probably going to be upset with you. They're probably going to sense that you're changing, and they're going to be upset about it. We're just giving you a heads up. So in this 2009 article, July 2009 Awake article, Is It Wrong to Change Your Religion? It says, and I quote, "No one should be forced to worship in a way that he finds unacceptable or be made to choose between his beliefs and his family." This is wildly ironic and hypocritical, coming from a group that has clearly illustrated through this Nita and Jade dramatization that Jade should choose the organization over her mother. And are we just not going to talk about the fact that if Jehovah's Witnesses tried to do this, if Jehovah's Witnesses tried to change their religion, they would be forced to choose between their beliefs and their family. Their families would cut them off and they would be shunned. I remember growing up, I would go from door to door in the ministry, knocking on doors. I'd go with my mother most of the time. I was super bored. I couldn't stand it. But my mother was a natural. She reminded me of the movie Tommy Boy, where David Spade's character is telling Chris Farley that he's just a crappy salesman. He's like, "You're nothing like your father. Your father was amazing."
He could sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves.
That was my mother. And one of the things she used to say at the door, are you just going to be spoon-fed what you're being taught at church? Are you just going to stay in your church because your mom, your dad, your uncle, your auntie, grandma, and grandpa are a part of it? Are you sticking around just for your family? Or are you going to be brave enough to question your religious leaders and find out the truth for yourself? It was very powerful, and she's not wrong. And when you think about it, that could go for anything. Religion, politics. Are you just going to blindly follow the narrative out of some misplaced loyalty or groupthink? Or are you going to actually do your own research, think for yourself, so you can make an informed decision? But the problem is, the scrutiny only ran one way. When I started to have doubts and had questions, I'd ask her, are you saying I can't apply this same line of reasoning to the Jehovah's Witnesses? You're telling me they're just morally invulnerable? You're telling me I should just blindly accept what I've been taught? Like, you're going to have the audacity to show up on someone's doorstep, tell them they're wrong, that they should investigate for themselves why they're wrong, but I'm not allowed to do the same. The math ain't mathin'. Oh my God. So circling back around to Jade's answer to her prayer, she pours her heart out to Jehovah on this park bench. What should I do? Help me make the right decision. Of course, is to get baptized. I mean, you remember how her mother in the beginning was like, this is just a phase, Jade. Think twice. Her mother's not wrong. Jade is stuck now. There are so many stories out there of people who got baptized, got roped into the cult, and it caused major problems with their family, their biological family. Thankfully, in a lot of cases, people did wake up. I've heard stories of people who woke up. Thankfully, their family bonds were not completely ruined. So someone in Jade's position, it's not without hope, but the way they try to weasel their way into people's lives and separate families is just gross. And the fact that they're making a series like this, a video like this, to pressure people who are in that position just shows who they are as an organization. No organization, group, individual should do this to people. They are not a harmless, quirky, fringe religious group. Joining the Jehovah's Witnesses will have a long-term serious impact on your real life. On that note, stay safe. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.